says I'm live. And for anyone joining from Instagram, I have to strongly advise that you not do that. The reason being that Instagram crops my streams to a 9:16 frame, which just isn't ideal. So this is streaming on YouTube as well. The link to that is in my story, so please feel free to join on YouTube rather than Instagram, because Instagram is the worst. Alrighty. But I have started the stream, and anyone who is willing to deal with that nonsense is more than welcome to do so. And just making sure that my Twitch settings are also set up appropriately. I have no idea what I'm doing, so if they aren't, I apologize. If you let me know in whatever chat you are in if something is not working properly, I would really appreciate it. I will try my best to fix things, but given that I am the only one troubleshooting for myself and I do not know what I'm doing, it might take a while. But I think everything does seem to be going normally, without any issue, at least that I can see. Okie dokie then. So, let's get back to this. Oh, let me just turn off my standby message. I'm actually in the process of creating a new standby message that is Silksong inspired, and I am really excited for when that eventually gets working. So for anyone who has been here since we started this stream, just a brief overview of what is actually going on here. So I am trying to create a Silksong tapestry. Tapestries are not something that I have any experience doing. This is the first time trying this out, and so far it seems to be going relatively the way that I expected it to. But at the end of this entire session of recordings, I don't know how long it's going to actually take to get this tapestry finished, but at the end I am going to get this printed onto an actual tapestry, and this might be a product that I then start selling at Comic-Cons in Joburg, depending. We'll see how it goes, and also what the quality of the tapestry that I order actually ends up looking like, because that is a major factor. As always, that's a major factor. But in the last session, I did the Cogwork Dancers. I was going to move on to the fourth chorus, and then Grandmother Silk if there is time today. So I'm just going to jump right into that. Where is my fourth chorus reference? So it's nice to have artboards like this so you can just quickly grab all your references. But the problem is that I do not label my references, which if anyone who is watching is thinking of getting into digital art, label your references, because they are just as important as your other layers, and if you don't, you won't know where they are, which is always a fun time. Okay, so this is a version of the fourth chorus that doesn't have the... Like, this is like just a scale version, so it shows like that's how big Hornet is compared to the automaton, but it doesn't have like these red moss structures growing on it, which are something that I really like, so I'm gonna have to find a better reference for what those look like to put them back at some point. But that's fine, we'll do that later. Okay. So just making sure that I am on the correct layer, and you can do that by just going to your Move tool and selecting the correct layer in the Move tool. I'm going to turn on my pixel lock so that anything that I do stays within the pixels that I have made. And I'm just going to kind of start drawing this out. So with mine, they're not going to be as dark in the front because I am going to have this background be sort of the lava-y background. So they're going to have a lot of red and orange light coming off of their thorax. I believe that is correct for the bottom half of a bug, and the abdomen, which is the top half. Yay, bug stuff. So at the moment, I am... well, I've just completed a series of tasks that I'd set myself in Silksong Act 3, so I am, I think, like 40%-ish of the way through Act 3. I'm not entirely sure, because whenever I'm playing, I ADHD so hard and end up doing like 9 things that I hadn't planned to do. And I do kind of try and plan out like what I want to do in a sit down play session, because I try to limit my playtime to like in the evenings, and like only for a couple of hours. So, I want to actually make progress in that time. But like normally the progress that I make is minimal because I'm just sitting there fighting something for 700 years and I don't actually beat the thing in that play session. So in my last play session, I was doing an optional subquest for a secret ending. So it's with Mr. Mushroom, which is also a character from Hollow Knight. And I believe that this interaction kind of prefaces the interaction that you can have with Mr. Mushroom in Hollow Knight, and that's also a specific ending that you can get. So I was doing that, and essentially that is a series of essentially find quests where you have to go and find Mr. Mushroom on various areas of the map, and it culminates in you having to go to one of the top areas, and in that top area you will find him after completing an insane platforming level. And like maybe I just didn't do it very well, but I don't think that was the case. I think it's just insane. Like the platforming in Silksong is already notoriously insane. The platforming in that level was maybe the worst platforming in the entire game that I have faced thus far. And my god, I hope that is the last of it, because of all the things that I am not enjoying in Silksong, then that's with like a giant asterisk, because I'm enjoying even the things that I'm not enjoying that much. The bullshit platforming is definitely up there. And like this platforming was especially difficult for me, not just because it's intentionally made to be incredibly difficult. I found it incredibly difficult because at some point in the game, you are getting what's called the claw line, and you're getting like double jump. Like it's a Metroidvania, so you're getting abilities as you go. Obviously, for Metroidvanias, that's kind of the standard stuff. But what I was finding was that even while I was getting these abilities, the I don't know if this is like something you can change. Like maybe I'm just dumb and I haven't actually looked for like things that you can change. But like the abilities will happen in sequence. So like if you double jump and then you try and use the claw line after the double jump, it's not going to work. Like you have to kind of do the sequence. So like if you just have the claw line, then pressing, in my case, it's the B button on my Pro controller. If you press the B button and you press it again, then you do a double jump. However, if you press it then a third time, or rather you press like R trigger, it does another jump. So like basically it's like if you do that in sequence, you won't be able to do the double jump if you've just done the double jump. And I was really struggling at certain parts of the level because I was trying to do the double jump and then the claw line and then another double jump directly after the claw line. And if you hadn't started that sequence of events from a neutral position, so either from clinging to the wall or being grounded, you just couldn't do that. So the game kind of then forced you to not use the double jump in certain areas. Oh yeah, also you have like a parachute that comes out of your little dress thing, and like that also is in the same line as the double jump, so if you hit B once, and like I might have just been doing it wrong, but it did feel like with the muscle memory that I was using as though I couldn't actually use double jump and then the claw line and then still double jump from like the parachute. Anyway, that's a very long-winded explanation to basically say that like it made the platforming incredibly intense in these very tight corners where you had to use the claw line to shoot across the level and then double jump onto a platform in the air that had spikes on the other side. Like anyone who's done this specific quest you'll know it when you do it. It's insane. And I was doing it for like an entire play session last week, And then this time, I was still doing it, and I was determined to actually finish it this time. Like, I didn't want to leave if it wasn't done. So I kept doing it to the point where, like, my hands were just, like, so sore from the amount of button mashing that I had to do. And it was insane. I had to take a couple of breaks because I kept getting just so tired and, like, also mentally tired as I was doing it, because, like, eventually you learn the patterns, and it's easier when you've learned the patterns, but it's still not necessarily going to mean that you'll implement those patterns correctly. I might just be explaining how games work. So, yeah, it was hard, is the beginning and end of that. It was very hard, and I did eventually get it, but, like, it took way longer than I am proud to admit. And then once I got that, I went off to go do other stuff, including renovating my house, because you do get a house in Silksong. By the way, there will be Silksong spoilers. If that wasn't obvious, then there will be Silksong spoilers. So what I'm doing now, and I should be doing this from closer, is I'm just using color dodge. So in my mode, I've set my brush to color dodge. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me these kind of awesome glowy effects from the lava. And I'm going to use those to kind of trace this, like, embossment underneath the abdomen. I'm just turning it on and off as I need, because I don't always need it to be as intense as that, but sometimes I do. Anyway, this is going to make it stand out a lot more. I've also been looking at some other fan art of Silksong things, and I'm really obsessed with, like, some flat lighting pieces that I have seen. I wish I could remember the name of the individual artists. These were things that I saw on Instagram, so likely if you are a Silksong fan, you will also be seeing lots and lots of these, but, like, I really love how some artists are drawing the lighting for the Silksong pieces that they're doing in such a way that it's, like, super dramatic. Like, I want to kind of get the very dramatic lighting to come across in this tapestry, but it's not something that I have often dealt with. Seeing as this tapestry is already kind of experimental, I'm going to try, but I'm going to try at the very end to kind of get more stark, more dramatic lighting to work in this piece. I'm also just making the lines a little less intense using a blending tool. I actually contemplated maybe not using any blending for this, because then I might get the sort of hard lighting that I want, but at the end of the day, I decided to do it because the blending tool does make things go a little bit faster, because otherwise I would need to use a soft brush. And I just prefer it, honestly, to just making kind of softer edges to colors. Like, it's not always going to be the answer, but it's a tool that I have learned how to use and I rely on very heavily. So even though I probably shouldn't rely on it as heavily as I do, it's kind of hard to break that habit. I also realized that, like, this pattern doesn't actually do what I think it does, because in my head it wrapped all around its body, but it looks like it kind of only partially wraps around its body and then it comes back down. Like, it's doing, like, this kind of curling upwards, which is really cool. So I'm just gonna follow that. Yeah, I think that's accurate to what this thing looks like in-game, while still being somewhat more accurate to the reference itself. In general, I've been trying to kind of practice letting it go when it comes to drawing. I have a tendency to kind of fixate on like individual lines, and like if I start in one area, I will kind of fixate on that area for way too long, and then the rest of the piece kind of gets neglected because of that. So I am actually trying to, instead of doing that, move along. Like as soon as I finish one piece of the character, just moving along to the next piece and the next piece and the next piece, and not get too wrapped up in one area, so that I can better showcase, firstly, what the end result is meant to look like, and secondly, so that I am actually just able to move on, because getting stuck in a place can be quite detrimental, especially if like you have a deadline. I don't have any deadlines on this. I kind of want to try and get it done before the 15th, just so that I can place the order for the tapestry before the 15th, and hopefully that means it will arrive before Christmas, and then that would be like an early Christmas gift to myself. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm going to try my best and see where it goes. Okay, so I'm now at a point, as I'm looking at this, where I think I can merge the line art into the color art. So I have my color art layer and I have my line art layer. So normally with the line art, I keep it on a very low opacity, and I would set it to something like multiply. And I'm glad that I've just done that, because it's let me see that actually I have all of the art on that line art layer, so including the background. So I don't want to get rid of the background line art. I just want to merge the line art onto the character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of that background line art. I'm going to move that copy below my character. So now that's line art that contains the character, but it's behind the color art, so it's not going to show up. I'm then going to lower the opacity of the line art that's still on top of my character layer. And I'm going to create a clipping mask. I do this by holding Alt on the keyboard and just dragging down until I see, if you look at my layers panel, until I see a little square with an arrow appear. And then I can clip it to the color art. So now it doesn't matter where that line art moves, it's going to stay within my color art. And I just prefer doing it that way before I then merge the line art down. So it'll make sure that the line art and the color art are sitting directly on top of each other. So now I can get real close and I can start really specifying those details. And I'm also essentially going to start painting over the line art as I go. So using this as sort of a base, so this is like 60% of the way there, I can start kind of refining this and rendering this. I don't want it to be too rendered, both because since this character is going to be quite small on the entire tapestry, so any refinements that I make are probably not even going to be seen in the final result. And also because, again, I want to try for a specific look that's not really a very rendered look. Like, I'm used to doing very rendered looks, and generally when I just kind of draw and let my brain go, things will end up looking very rendered, regardless of if I intended them to or not. But I'm just gonna see. I'm just gonna try and see. Like, that's really the best thing that anyone, I think, can do if you're kind of trying to get into drawing stuff, or you just want to improve your artistic skills, is just do it. Just draw. Just get into it. Just kind of turn your brain off and let yourself go while you draw. And what you produce is not going to be what you had in your mind. Like, just divorce yourself from that idea immediately. But you will make something, and you'll find the next time you try and make something, it'll be better. And the next time you try and make something, it'll be better. And that's what practice is. cool. So this is where I need my reference, because I actually have no idea how this thing's face looks. Yeah, so I gave it like a clavicle for some reason, and it does not have that. I don't know where that came from. So this is why it is important to refer back to your reference as often as you can. In my case, this reference is kind of big, but I think I can still just slap it onto my artboard without it being an issue. I might need to make it smaller. I don't like having things kind of hanging outside of the artboard, because in the past, when I've had computers that were really not up to the task of photoshopping, I think doing that actually takes quite a bit of processing power. So if I ever did that, if I ever like had half a reference hanging out of the artboard, it would really slow down my computer. And like, I don't really know if it does that now, but it feels like it does. And I don't know if that's just now my muscle memory making me think that that's what's happening, or if it's really happening. It doesn't really matter. I try to avoid it. Like, you learn these things when you do these things. So it's probably for the best that I just don't do that. Okay, and then like that looks much more painted, so I'm trying to go for that. Let's just add some underlighting. So like if there was lava below this guy or this lady, because it's an ant. I think they're meant to be ants. They look very ant-like. So if there's lava below her, then I want to kind of have that lava light shining off of the faceplate, like so. Just by the by, I normally do these streams for about 2 hours. I technically have work I'm supposed to be doing right now. Like, I have commission work that I need to be getting on with. So I will probably only be streaming for 1.5 hours, but we'll see how fixated I get on this. If I get too fixated, then that commission work might just be happening during bedtime, and that's fine. I think most of the commissioners that I have currently are overseas, so, well, overseas for me, because I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa, so I think most of the commissioners that I have are, like, in Europe or in the US, so they are, I think, awake at this point in time, but it's, like, early morning. I don't know what the time zones look like. I know for anyone from Poland, it's like the same. Like, we're in the same time zone, so that's pretty neat. It does, however, mean that any of my Polish commissioners will know that I am up at like 1 a.m. doing stuff. Because, yeah, I don't have a normal sleep cycle. I don't even know what is a normal sleep cycle, honestly. I feel like just whenever your body wants to be up is when you get up, unless you have a job that requires you to be up way earlier than that. However, I also recall when studying psychology in college that there is a lot of evidence that just gets straight up ignored that humans cannot be productive before 9 a.m. Like, there's no reason to do anything before 9 a.m. because your brain's just not going to be productive because you haven't woken up yet. So it's like, you can force yourself to be productive, but that's when you're going to make all sorts of nonsense mistakes. So, like, what was very cool was the head of the psychology department when I was studying psychology took that research to the head of the university and was like, listen, we're teaching people how to actually use research to make decisions that are relevant. So we need to have exams that don't start at 9 a.m. Our exams need to start from 10 a.m. And she convinced the head of the university to let her do that. And that was really cool because I feel as though I have worked in places where people present scientific research that has been tried and tested over and over again and that they themselves have asked for regarding, like, productivity. And as soon as they're told, yeah, no, people will be more productive if you give them more breaks, they're like, nope, not gonna happen. Sorry. That's not how we work. And it's just kind of amazing that it's like, you know, you asked for this research only to ignore this research when it didn't conform to something that you wanted, or rather didn't conform to your comfort levels, because you're not comfortable with the idea of allowing your employees to take multiple breaks outside of the designated break time. So you're just going to ignore this research and be like, nope, we're not doing that. So, at the end of the day, nothing actually matters. I do want to get the ambient occlusion on the lights in this character's eyes, because I think it's part of what makes it so uncanny and so kind of scary. Like, when you're fighting this thing, it's already kind of scary because it literally just comes out of the background at you, which, if you've played any Hollow Knight game or any sort of Metroidvania game, that's kind of on you. Like, you should know by now that's a thing that they do. But it still feels very intense when it happens, even if you're fully expecting it to happen. I feel like I have a lot of pressure in my ear for some reason. There we go. So I was talking about my current run of Silksong and where I am at with that. So I think I'm fairly, like, midway. Like, maybe not. I might still have a lot to go. But I'd made a list of things based on videos that other people had posted on Instagram of, like, secrets and hidden stuff, because I feel like I missed a lot of stuff in Act 2 that I'm kind of sad that I missed. So I'm trying to kind of be as completionistic as possible with Act 3 in order to get an ending, or to get all the endings, and make sure that I see everything that needs to be seen. And I know I'm still going to miss stuff, because this game was 8 years in development. Like, they had 8 years to hide everything from everything. Like, there's so many hidden levels, it's kind of insane. Like, it's great when you find one, like, without needing a tutorial video to show you where one is. Like, I found one accidentally that I had no idea existed, and I felt so good about myself. But, at the same time, it means that unless you're going to dedicate a large portion of your life to playing this game, you're not going to find it. Or unless you have access to, like, dev tools or the ability to look at a level from not just what the game developers wanted you to look at it from. Which I don't, and I don't really care to do that. So I'm just gonna find stuff on my own. And I'm quite enjoying the sheer amount of stuff that there is and that I have found so far. Anyway, right now, I'm trying to actually remember where I left off, because it was last night and I was tired and I just was like, okay, this is a place to leave off. And I don't even remember what I was doing when I decided to leave off. I think I had finished accessorizing my house. Like, I bought the last of the accessories. I am currently at a place where I need to find more ore. So there's a few types of ore that you find in the game, and one is required by the fourth architect, the lady who presumably made these automatons, the fourth chorus and the other choruses that are sitting by the place where you find her, and she upgrades your stuff if you buy certain things from her. She also gives you some weapons that are very useful, and I've bought everything from her, at least from Act 2 that was available. I bought everything from her other than a pair of spider legs, and I believe that these spider legs enable you to escape very quickly, and then Hornet's legs turn into spider legs, and it's just very cute and also incredibly, like, what the hell. So I am painting into the wrong layer. I can see that because it's not reacting the way I want it to react. What has happened here? Where are my layers? Okay, yes. Oh, I was painting into the reference image. That's what happened. Let's try our best not to do that. If we can't help it. Have I already done that too much? At any time, if you're painting into the wrong layer, if the layers are separate enough, it's an easy enough fix. You can just select what you've painted and then hit cut, and that will allow you to cut whatever you have painted out of the layer that you painted it into. You can then just merge that cut layer down into the layer that you should be working on. But even better than that is to prevent that from happening from the beginning. So to do that, you select your reference layer and you just lock it. So now that lock is going to prevent me from accidentally selecting that layer. It's also helpful because, like, my tablet pressure settings are all over the place, which means that I occasionally select something even though I didn't have the movement tool selected, nor did I want to select the thing. I was just kind of, like, clicking around. So locking off layers that you don't plan to work in is just a fail-safe way to prevent stuff like that from happening. I always forget to do it, though. I think it's best to understand everything that can go wrong when you are doing certain things. Just in general, like, even if you put all of the contingencies in the world in place, something's still going to go wrong eventually because, you know, you're human and you make mistakes, and you're supposed to. So knowing how to fix those mistakes is kind of vital. Okay. I know I said I was going to try to do this harsh lighting technique at the end, but then I started doing it just without thinking, and I really like how it looks, so we're just going to continue doing it. It's like most things in the world, that's how you end up with a result, is you start doing something without really knowing what you're doing, and then it becomes something. I should still be looking at my reference because I am going off reference quite a bit. Not that it really matters. As I mentioned for this piece, I'm not really trying to make something that is lore accurate. I'm more just trying to make something for myself that really focuses on the areas of the game that I enjoyed. So obviously there's a lot more places in the game than the ones that I have showcased here. So here I have, like, the Abyss, I have the Far Fields where you find the fourth chorus, I have the Cradle where you fight Grandmother Silk. Like, I have those areas, and those are main story areas, but I only really have them because those were fights that I found memorable and I really enjoyed. So, like, yeah, the end goal here is to kind of create a memorial? I don't know if I'm using that term correctly, but a memorial to what I remember from the game, and that kind of stuck out in my memory from the game thus far. So obviously I'm going to be missing stuff because there's not more areas of the game as far as I know in Act 3, but there's definitely more fights that haven't happened yet that I'm probably going to find super memorable. Like, I was thinking about it the other day and thinking, like, I actually probably will need to make, like, 3 tapestries, like, for each act. I'm not going to. I don't have the time for that. But I should, if I really want to properly memorialize my experience thus far with Silksong. And it's okay. We'll see if I get around to it. And on the note of getting around to things, I normally stream on the weekend, but this weekend I didn't because I had a friend's birthday party, and we ended up being there for a lot longer than I had planned. Normally with birthday parties and, like, just parties in general and just social activities, I've got a pretty small quota of social battery, and that runs out fairly quickly, and I was already tired from the night before. I don't really remember what was happening the night before, but just in general, I've been, like, in a perpetual state of stress this year, like everyone in the world. So, yeah, I was more tired going to this party which started in the afternoon than I normally would have been. And I decided to just go home a little bit early. And I was maybe gonna stream if there was time. Like this, the party started when I would normally have streamed. But I just decided not to. Like, I got home and I immediately was like, cool, I'm gonna go to bed now. Excuse me. Because, yeah. And it was very fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. There were a lot of really cool people that I've met before there, and, like, we all had a really good time. And the person we were celebrating, I think, enjoyed themselves, which is always the end goal, is that the birthday boy or girl actually has fun at their own party. And I know he's spending his free time in enjoying a gaming chair and desk setup that his wife got him. I need to remember that because these are very close friends, and I was at their wedding. I was the maid of honor at their wedding. But I keep, like, defaulting to, oh yeah, girlfriend, because that's what I remember you being, but you're not that anymore. You're in the other special place, and now your roles have changed, so I need to remember to actually address that. I don't know if I like how this bottom lighting is looking as much as I did a few seconds ago. Like, I'll give it a chance. Let's just see, once I've cleaned this up a little bit more, if I enjoy it more. I also have smoothing on so that I can draw my lines a bit more straight. It seems to be working somewhat. Yeah, okay, I like it again. That does often happen as you're drawing something. You look at it and you're like, something that I liked 5 seconds ago, now I don't like how it looks so much, or now it looks weird. It's also why it's important to every now and then just take a step back and have a look at what you're doing. So I'm going to zoom out because since this tapestry is so big, the navigator's doing nothing. Like, there's just too much stuff on my screen for the navigator to be helpful, so I'm actually going to close the navigator. And instead I'm just going to zoom out on the actual screen and save. Because my computer's been weird lately. Like, when I was working on stuff yesterday, it just randomly... Like, it didn't crash. All of my tabs just got slower to a point where it was very noticeable. And I was very confused by that. But it seems to have resolved itself after rebooting. I don't know. I'm always really, really paranoid that something is going to go wrong with my computer. Firstly, because I just am in general. That's like my stuff breaking, which, you know, is a normal thing that happens. If you own things, they will eventually break. Nothing lasts forever. But like a deeply ingrained paranoia that I have is that my stuff will break in the middle of like something important where I need it, and that I won't be able to get new stuff. And that's resulted in me kind of like learning to be handy in order to be able to fix stuff, so that I can maintain my own things that need maintenance. And like that works up to a point if you're not planning on being like properly trained. Like, there are certain things you can do for like your car, or you can do for like your computers. Like, if your computer battery dies, you can easily replace it. That's not something that you need to like throw out the entire computer and, you know, start over. And I mean like laptops, not PCs. Like, that's a thing. If your headset that you use is starting to get all peely and the peelies are coming off and like littering you in little black specks, which is what's currently happening with mine, you can replace the ear, I don't know what you'd call them, the ear muffs, the things that are over the ears. You can replace those. Depending on where you get replacements, they may be more or less expensive. Like, I remember that was happening, and I bought some replacement earmuffs, and I was like, for the cost of these earmuffs, I might as well just get a new set of headphones. But then I actually did some searching, and I found them way, way cheaper. Like, I was just looking at, like, the most expensive place that you could buy them. So yeah, like, I think most things you can learn how to replace or how to do yourself, but then there's some things where it's like, no, you need to hire a professional to fix that, and or you need to just suck it up and get a new one. Case in point, my fridge, which I've mentioned in previous streams, was causing me a lot of stress because it just stopped working. Like one day, got up, came out to the kitchen, and there was just water everywhere because it had melted overnight, and there was no good reason for that. Like, nothing had happened to the fridge. It just decided to stop melting, to stop freezing stuff for whatever reason. As it turns out, the reason is just like old fridges. Like, I've talked to people who have the exact same brand of fridge, and they're like, oh, my fridge has been with me for the past 16 years, and I've never experienced any major issues with it. It's always been perfectly functional. And it's just like, okay, well, my fridge was like fourth hand, and it was also a cheaper brand and a cheaper unit from a cheaper brand. So, like, yeah, sometimes you get what you paid for. I paid nothing for it, and I got what I paid for. But yeah, like with that fridge, I tried for so long to fix it, and eventually just gave up because it was like, at this point, the amount of money that's been spent trying to repair this thing is getting close to not being able to justify it. At which point it's like, okay, just get a fridge, like, on lay-by, and just get a new fridge. Like, there are certain appliances that I feel now, at the ripe old age of whatever age I am, there's certain appliances that I feel like you shouldn't necessarily risk secondhand. Like, there's definitely times where it's like you don't have a choice, and if that's you, if you don't have a choice because you just do not have the ability to afford whatever you're trying to buy new, then my recommendation is go smaller. So, like, if you can't afford a brand new fridge, which most of us can't, like I can't, and I still fucking had to do it, and we'll reap the consequences of that in the new year. But, like, if you can't afford, you know, a new fridge, get a mini fridge. A mini fridge will set you back a lot less than a full fridge, and it will be functional. And yeah, you won't have as much space, and it will suck. But if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. Otherwise, just, like, save up, get it on credit, pay back that credit. Definitely pay back that credit. Like, I don't want to advise that anyone just get something on credit and not pay it back. But yeah, do what you need to do there. And, like, that's just unfortunately the state of the economy everywhere. For other things, like cars, like, I have a friend who's very adamant that you should never buy a secondhand car, and I'm just sort of like, yeah, but you've always had someone who can buy you a first-hand car, so yeah. Because with cars, unfortunately, it's just a thing of, like, getting a first-hand car, even if you get it on credit, is just not gonna be sustainable for a lot of people, and I feel like in that case, you know, just do your best. But yeah, if you do have to get a secondhand car, because I do agree with the sentiment that, like, if something breaks down, there are certain things that, like, are going to majorly inconvenience you more if they break down than other things. A car is one of them, a fridge is one of them. So, like, if you are getting a secondhand car, make sure you know exactly what you're getting. Make sure that you actually check the engine, and also make sure that you know if the car has been in an accident before you got it, because a lot of times secondhand cars are being sold, at least in my country, I can't speak for other places, they're being sold after having had, like, a major accident, and, like, something is up, but the person who's selling them does not actually wish to get whatever is up dealt with. So instead they sell the car, you know, in the same vein of, like, yeah, it might just be cheaper to sell this than to try and fix whatever's wrong with it, and then you inherit what's wrong with it. So, like, I think just on a moral level, also, don't do that. If you own a thing and you're selling that thing because there's something wrong with it, either disclose that to whoever you're selling it to, or just give it away for free. Like, there's no point in trying to make a quick buck off of something that you were going to throw away anyway. in my opinion. Like, the world is full of hustlers. I guess objectively that's fine, but just don't be a dick. Don't be a dick to people who are already in a situation where they're being forced to buy something third hand. Okay, so this plate for the body, I'm noticing isn't like exactly straight, and it's not exactly straight in the reference either, which makes me think the body's actually tilted slightly, but because it's like a free moving sphere, that's not actually changing the dimensions of the sphere, because a sphere, when it turns, is going to just create the same silhouette because it's a sphere. Like if you rotate a ball on your hand, you'll see the concept of that. But I do think I can do a little bit more to just make that clearer. Specifically, I think in the like filigree at the bottom and that matching up, because in the reference, I'm kind of confused because like the bottom filigree is kind of to the right, or it's kind of straight on with the abdomen, but then the rest of the body is more to the right. That's probably just how they were animating it. But I feel like I can make that make a little bit more sense in my version. Oh, by the way, if you are going to use liquify tools, which none of you can actually see when I do that because of how I'm recording this, if you're going to use liquify tools and you're on a very large canvas, select what you need to liquify before going into the tools. That will allow you to get closer to whatever you are adjusting. If it's on a separate layer, the liquefied tools are still going to just look at it as though it's part of one large canvas. So I highly recommend doing that just to keep things organized. Okay, cool. So this is going along. At some point I tilted my canvas. That always just happens because for some reason I have my keys on my tablet set up for rotation, even though I never use the rotation, and I actually need to change that, but I've just never done that in like the 7 years I've owned this tablet. So instead I'm just going to start like cleaning up the edges of this. I want to try and finish the fourth chorus. Maybe I probably won't have the background done, or maybe I will if I'm not trying to do the background in any degree of, right, that's locked, that's why I can't move it. Ha ha ha, I've played myself. If I can't have the background in, then I will concede, but I'm also like, I don't know, I feel like I've been way more tired lately, just in general, maybe because, like, even though working from home, I don't really notice the change of the seasons as much as I think other people do. Like, it doesn't affect me as much. Like, it's not like I have work that only knocks off from this day in December. So, like, and even when I was working part-time, like, I was an independent contractor, so I didn't technically work for the people that I worked for. And, like, that was very clear in the contractual obligations versus the contractual benefits that they were providing, which was none. That I didn't actually work for them. But, like, when I did work there, then it kind of mattered because I would be teaching up until the 15th of December whenever the students got knocked off, and then the other teachers were forced to stay and continue to just be at school wasting their time, and I could go home. So now I am not even part-time teaching, and I have no reason to care about December. Like, obviously, yeah, Krampus is a thing, but I mean, I don't really celebrate, at least not stringently. Like, the family that I do have and I do talk to, like, we'll probably get together and have food and play video games, but other than that, there's nothing really that's happening for me, for Krampus, that's, like, worth writing home about. It's just happening. And, like, yeah, it's nice. Like, it's nice that people aren't going to be in the road that I'm not traveling on, anyway. because they will have all gone down to Durban for vacation. Like, that's cool. The food is cool, but, like, yeah, it's not like I'm seeing any, like, family coming out or anything like that, so it's just gonna be quiet, which is nice. I enjoy quiet. I enjoy not having to deal with a lot of drama and nonsense and people screaming, so that will be nice. I also have Discord going off in my ear because the commissioner is giving feedback on some art that I sent this morning. So I should probably address that. Right, the point of what I was saying before I went on several tangents, I might need to mute Discord because it is distracting me from what I'm trying to do right now. And then I need to try and remember to unmute it so that I can actually hear when people are talking to me about things that matter, because they are paying clients. So let's just mute conversation for 15 minutes. That is an option. Great. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Christmas, nothing's happening, but like it's still gonna be fun. But yeah, I don't really have a lot going on. I am probably gonna put some of our merch from Comic-Con. Like I'm probably gonna just advertise that on Instagram for a little bit because you know, 'tis the season to buy merch. And also just like, I don't know if I'll be doing Comic-Con Cape Town this year for various reasons. And I've got lots of leftover stock that is filling up my closet, and I would like more closet space, so I am probably gonna do like Black Friday's already gone, but like Christmas sales, whatever things. Also, I don't understand Black Friday. Like, I get it. It's just like, oh yeah, it's a Friday, and like, you know, it's the origination from the US where like Thanksgiving is a thing, so there's a reason to be like, oh, at the end of Thanksgiving, when you've probably now spent a lot of money on turkey, here's an opportunity to buy your Christmas gifts cheaper than you normally would. I think South Africa doesn't really understand Black Friday, like, at all, because none of the sales here are, like, worthwhile. Like, the main retail seller, online seller, is a site called takealot.com. And it's great. I use it all the time. I have no complaints about Takealot as a provider of stuff. But, like, every year they have a Black Friday sale that crashes their website. And frankly, for what? Because if you actually look at the prices of the stuff that they're selling versus the prices of the stuff they're selling on Black Friday, either there's no discount, so it says everything is discounted and it's better than it was, but there's no actual proof of that. Or it's just such a minimal discount that it's like, I wouldn't trample someone for this. Like, they need to be discounts worth trampling someone for. If you're only going to take off like 50 Rand, which I think is like $3, it's not worth trampling someone. I mean, maybe, depends on how little self-control you have and or care for other people's lives, but I just feel like it's not worth it for me to trample someone, specifically for that reason, to trample someone. Right, I went on several tangents again and didn't get to the point that I was making. The point that I was making is I am happy with the progress thus far in the little time that I've been streaming this, so I will probably actually finish this at 3, so in the next 7 minutes. Which means that I actually do want to get going with the background and try and get as much of the background done as I can. So I have cordoned off the backgrounds in my layers panel. Let's just close this. I hate that Photoshop makes the properties layer and the libraries layer that big. Like, it doesn't need to be that big. Also, why do I have a histogram? I don't need this histogram here. Get out of here. Close tab group. Libraries. Close tab group. No one needs you. I need more layers. I need to see all my layers. So this is the 4th chorus background. So I am going to try and color this, like the base colors, we'll see if we'll add more detail to it, as quickly as I can, while also avoiding that flea, because that flea needs to be different colors than the rest of it. So I'm gonna start by adding in black. Now, I see that something is happening here. The black is not showing up as strongly as it should be. Why is that? Why are you not true black? Why are you... I can see it's true black on the thing, but this... Ah, okay, it's because all of these backgrounds, the color has been reduced on all of these. So what I will do is I'm going to take the fourth chorus background out of this group. There we go. Now that's the accurate color that it actually is, because the group is at a lower opacity than the rest of it. I'm also just going to turn off the group, which just, I mean, it's not really going to make any difference. Just now I can see just that background. And now I'm just going to literally come in here and start adding color as quickly as possible. This is going to be very messy, which is fine. I can clean it up more later, but I just kind of want to get the idea of what the tonal values will be in this background before I actually start on it. I see I've got all of these jumpy nightmare sprouts that I wanted in this background as well, for reasons that I cannot explain to anyone, let alone myself. So I'm just going to make sure that those are very vivid and that I can see where they are going. So this is not an accurate to where this boss appears background. This is a I wanted to showcase my pain and suffering while going through these areas background. There's also a lot of green in these areas because there's the far fields right next to the lava pond, which does make geographic sense, I think. I feel like lava and magma flows in nature do create spaces where vibrant verdure can grow and thrive. So I'm just gonna put like a little bit of green just around. And I also want to kind of showcase these rocks, these very, very intense rocks. This is where I should take this copy. So this is the copy of the line art, and I should actually merge this down into that layer. This way, now, when I'm painting onto this, it's going to not paint onto underneath the line art. It's going to paint directly on top of it. So I will get the look that I want. And I don't necessarily need for the line art to fully disappear either. I just want it to sort of vanish into that background a bit more. Yeah. So I know what I said like 10 seconds ago, but now I'm fixated on this background. So I'm going to continue with this background until 3:30. And then at 3:30 I will stop, and I will eat lunch, and I will then work on commissions until 5, and then after 5 I will play more Silksong, and then I will go to sleep at a normal time between 9 and 10, and I'm definitely not lying about that. And I'll drink a healthy amount of water. I've just drunk a healthy amount of water. And everything will be good. And I definitely won't have anxiety dreams about the fourth chorus. Did you notice that I was lying? Cool. So that rock looks like rock. Now let's add in some of the light from the lava that occurs below that rock. So design-wise, the choruses, because there's more than one. You only fight one, but there's more than one in different areas of the game. Like the place where you meet the 12th architect and you get the architect's crest. There's one in the chapel of the architect. There's also two on either side of the chapel that are kind of like chained up and like they're not in use. So this one was clearly just out when whatever happened and it didn't get put back into the garage. But in terms of like bosses in the game, this one is maybe got my favorite aesthetic of any of the bosses. Like there's a lot of very, very beautiful bosses, which this Tapestry is gonna kind of try and commemorate. But I just really, really love the aesthetic of the fourth chorus boss, hence why I'm drawing it, and hence why I want to try and just get the aesthetic of it to shine through. So that I can continue to remember it fondly. I think what I actually maybe want to do is I want to have the light from the lava sort of shining up from the bottom of this entire thing. So I'm just going to go over that with some orange, turn on color dodge, and very, very carefully with a very small brush, I'm just going to use the color dodge to kind of go up over this area. So it's kind of the idea of rising lava, which happens a lot in Silksong, even in places where you wouldn't expect it. Sometimes you'll just be minding your own business, doing a mini-boss, and then suddenly lava, which I absolutely hate. Like, I don't necessarily mind, like, outrun this environmental disaster-esque challenges in Metroidvanias, but the Silksong lava was maybe some of the most stressful stuff that I've ever done ever in my entire life. Like, to the point where, in order to actually do it properly, I had to turn off the music, because I just couldn't, like, the music was stressing me out so much, I just couldn't. And there was another area with, like, another mini-boss that I was doing in a hidden room that I just kind of found randomly. And when you finish, it's like a gauntlet with, like, a bunch of smaller enemies that you have to beat. And when you beat them, then the lava starts to rise again. And you have to really quickly climb to the surface to avoid it. And that just felt like a kick in the pants, really, after I'd done the initial lava escape. The one that, like, everyone does in the... When you take the elevator shaft down into the abyss, and it breaks, and you get left in the abyss, and you have to find your own way out. There's a lava run at the end of that whole thing, and that's already, like, stressful enough, and I did that, and I was proud of myself, and then they were like, yeah, here's more lava, because you like lava, don't you? Put it in your mouth and eat it. Absolutely sucks. And I think I just heard my filament spool end. So my boyfriend's just gonna go and fix that. Thank you. I am also printing while doing all this other stuff, because why not? Why not also do a task that normally requires a lot, like a lot of attention, while doing another task that requires a lot of attention. Why wouldn't you do those two things at the same time? Okay, gonna zoom out so that I can see. I think the background's looking good. I'm not looking forward to doing these fingers, just because it's gonna be really finicky. But I'll deal with that when I get there. right now. I'm just gonna fill up these spaces. I've also recently been using Toon Boom Harmony for some illustration stuff that I was doing, and because of that, I'm like in the mental space that I can just create a circle, and then that circle will fill up, but that's not how Photoshop works. Like, it's definitely a good thing to know how to use multiple softwares, but what I will say is if you are constantly using different softwares, it's just kind of like playing a bunch of different games with different control schemes. You will forget what the control scheme you were using looked like, and then you will immediately have to remember for something. And it's just a little bit of a mind fart when you do that. Like, it's not the end of the world, but it is a bit of a mind fart when you do that. Okay, so I'm noticing that some of my line art is not disappearing, and I'm wondering why that is, because it should be disappearing. I think, yep, it's because it's in a different layer. So this line art that's not disappearing from the top here, that's because that's part of this background. It's not part of this background. So when I do that background and I kind of merge them together, then it'll be more obvious which background is part of which thing. But for now, I'm just kind of very roughly sketching this out. And I'm not really trying to follow the thing, I just want the basic outline of what's going on there. And honestly, I couldn't actually tell you what's going on there. It seems to be like volcanic rock that's kind of in a somewhat organic shape. So it's not squishy, but it looks like it should be squishy. Oh yeah, that reminded me of what I actually did yesterday. So I went and fought an optional boss in... what is that place called? The Sands of Karak. There are two optional bosses down up there in that area. And I had already beaten one after I'd done the main boss that's there. And then I saw a video that made me realize that there was more stuff to do there. So then I went and beat that boss to be able to get a memento. And that was what I did. And that boss was actually not too bad, which is relative when talking about Silksong, about things being not too bad or like really, really bad. But just in terms of like other mini bosses that I'd really struggled with, this one wasn't too bad. I was able to beat it after like 3 attempts at it, and once that was done, I got the thing. Like I got the credit for beating it. And yeah, it was good. It was fun. I definitely don't want to do it again though. Right, these seed bouncy things. I realize I should probably be more in the top layer of this, because that's more like the far field stuff is in the top layer of this. That's okay. Yeah, again, for anyone who's joining via Instagram, move to YouTube. What are you doing to yourself? You won't be able to actually see what I'm doing here. Until the brief moments where I have to pull out to showcase the whole canvas. It's also like not centralized, the cropping. It's like in this 1/4 region of the screen that Instagram has decided that that's where it's going to crop from. Like, who does that help? No one. That's who that helps. Okay. And I just kind of want to fill up this space with some more of the darker color and just get it kind of filled. That flea will be painted. It just might not get painted today. Most likely, the next stream that I do is going to be on the weekend again, so it'll be on Saturday. And then subsequent streams will be on Saturdays, or Tuesdays, or Mondays, just any day when I have time and I have access to a computer, because I don't always have access to a computer. I'm not going to explain how that works. Rather, I don't always have access to a computer that's good for streaming stuff. Like, I have a really old, really shitty laptop that I would not risk trying to stream on, let alone trying to run Photoshop on. And by the way, if you are trying to get into digital drawing or digital art and you're wondering what sort of stuff you'd need to be able to do that other than a tablet, just a decent computer with a decent amount of RAM, so like 16 gigs of RAM minimum, because if you don't have enough RAM, Photoshop is just not going to operate properly. I've mentioned in a couple of streams that I've done, but I had a laptop at one point that was like a super cheap, like, it was really only meant to ever run Microsoft Word. It was never meant to be used for anything else, but I was using it for everything, and Photoshop took literally, I think, something like 12 minutes to close, and like 10 minutes to open. Like, it was a ridiculous amount of time, to the point where, like, I couldn't really do commissions and stuff on it, because, you know, if a client wanted changes, and I'd moved on to another project, or I'd closed Photoshop, I was like, nope, I'm not opening Photoshop again today. I cannot do it. Which, you know, is not a valid excuse for not being able to do your job. Now, what is that in the background? I see there's, like, spikes here, but I don't actually remember what I meant those spikes to be. I assume those are just, like, thorns coming out of the darkness. Like, that stuff ended up being blocked by other elements in the scene, so, frankly, whatever this was meant to be doesn't really matter anymore. It's now something else. It's now whatever the scene calls for. So I'm going to interpret these as just, like, thorny vines. And because they're coming out of the lava, which I don't think there's any actual areas in the game where thorny vines are coming out of the lava, but because that's how I'm interpreting them, I'm just going to make them a silhouette of whatever is happening there. So this is the danger of, if you merge your line art and color art layers entirely, is now I'm forced to kind of color out all my line art, whereas before, if I hadn't merged them, if I just kind of drawn under them and then done that until the end, I would have been able to just turn off that layer. But I decided to go the route that I went, so now I have to commit to it. And that's fine. Oh, that's a flea. Is that a flea? It looks like a flea. That there was a flea there, and then Hornet's ass is now covering that flea that was there. So I'm just gonna reestablish some of the stuff that should be here. So, like, there's fire and brimstone and stuff happening in the fire and brimstone things, and then the jumpy things, which also don't necessarily need to be there, but they're there, so shush. Oops. I didn't mean to completely cover that. Yeah, so this is a gradient, so this is going to be very fun to cover up. Whoops. I don't need to rotate. Like, there's no... Oh, there is a rotate. I need to figure out those settings and just change that, because I do not need these things to rotate when I don't need them to rotate. It's super annoying that they do rotate when I don't need them to rotate. What I'm probably also going to do is I'm going to just delete the line art wherever it is. Okay, it's the Hunter's March line art. Okay, so these things do actually, they're going into the Hunter's March. Okay, so this isn't as inaccurate as I thought it was initially. These are areas that are connected, and there is some connecting stuff between them. So as I'm deleting this to be able to see what's going on here, I can rest easy knowing this is somewhat accurate. But again, accuracy is not really the point, but it's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing, and I'm going for it, even if it's not the point. Do 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 do. Cool. And I might just add more lines to kind of define what these are. Even in the game, I don't really know what these are meant to be. I assume they're like seed pods. Like, they look kind of like roses that haven't bloomed yet. And you bounce on them. And they make a little thunking noise when you bounce on them. That's very satisfying. But if you don't bounce on them properly, then it's very unsatisfying because you die. So whatever these are meant to be, I'm just kind of memorializing how frustrating they are. Still not as frustrating as the most recent bit of nonsense platforming that I had to do in the game, but they're pretty dang frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. Like, as I've mentioned already, there have been times when playing Silksong where I've felt as though I might have to concede that the game is too hard in places. And I might not be able to just tell anyone who's like, no, Silksong is too hard. I might not be able to tell them to just get good. There have been 3 exact times that I can name where I have felt so frustrated with something in the level that and it's usually when it's in the level. It's never been like a boss that I'm like, that boss is too hard. It's always been like no, this platforming or this getting from here to here is too hard. And there have been 3 exact times that I can remember that I've actually felt that, and I've thought, yeah, I don't know if this is now a skill issue. This might be the game issue. One of which was this most recent gauntlet of bullshit platforming. Like, it was bad. Like, I did it. I definitely don't want to do it again. Like, with the other areas where this has happened before, in which I'm kind of like, maybe this is unfair. Those other areas, I went off, I cooled down, I took a break, I came back, and it was easy. This was the first time I went out, took a break, came back, and it was just as hard as it was before I took the break, and I was struggling just as much, and my hands hurt just as much. So yes, Revelation, Silksong is hard. It's also an insanely cool game with an insanely cool aesthetic. And it is really everything that I wanted it to be. Because I had been waiting for Silksong as long as everyone else, just since 2019, when I think they announced that it wasn't just going to be DLC, it was going to be its own game centered around the character Hornet. And, like, yeah, that was pretty much all they had to say to guarantee that I was going to play it. But yeah, still not done, technically. I probably won't be done this year, quite honestly. Like, I'm probably going to be playing it into next year. And I mean, like, I am not necessarily trying to 100% it. I know that that is a challenge that people try to do, but unfortunately it's a meaningless challenge, because even if you 100% the game, there's still so much additional stuff that they don't count towards that 100% achievement. that every completionist out there is like, yeah, no, I don't 100% the game unless I have also done this and got this and gone here and talked to that guy and done this thing and reunited that family. Like, it's not 100%. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I am very happy with how that looks. I think, in general, the background is reading the way that I wanted it to read. And now I can do these hands that I said I was dreading doing. Where is the reference that I had? I turned it off. There it is. Okay. So I just need that to make sure that I'm getting the silhouette of the hands as accurate as I can. I think I've already made them somewhat inaccurate because if I look at this, they have 4 fingers and I have given them all 5 fingers. So that's good news for me because it means that I can immediately get rid of one of these fingers and that's fine. That's legal. I'm not doing anything wrong. Again, not that I'm going for accuracy, but if I wanted accuracy, it would be 4 fingers. I'm just going to do that with all the hands. So depending on whether it's the pinky or the index finger that I feel doesn't look as nice, I'm just going to paint out the one that doesn't look as nice. And I'm just going to fill up the hands with some gray. Like, they're not gray, but this is just going to make it easier to see them. Like, this is kind of why jumping between the background and the character is maybe not such a good idea, because now, like, I can't see the silhouettes of the hands that I'm working on. Like, what is going on there? What is that silhouette even meant to be? So I'm going to need to fill these hands with a color so that I can actually see what's going on, and then work from there. And yeah, you could have just done this sequentially, but A, I didn't want to, which really is the only reason that anyone needs to know about. And B, I kind of like being able to paint the hands in reference to what's behind them, because now I know, like, their silhouette is not going to be very clear if I make them accurate. So what I'm going to do instead of making them accurate is I am going to make them glow. Like how the lava is glowing, I'm going to do that with the hands. Which is also kind of more of a representation of this boss and what fighting them is like, because at various points while you are fighting the 4th chorus, it will slam its hands into the platform that you are trying to balance on while fighting it, and it will break that platform. So you just have to deal with it. And the only thing that you can hit is, like, its head. Its head is the part of its body that is hittable. Everything else is presumably behind the platform, so you can't reach it, even though it's a 2D space, so they're representing whatever's going on there in kind of an abstract way. But yeah, I just want the silhouette of the hands to read as very sinister. Just another tip for anyone who's looking into getting into drawing, whether it's digital or not, but if you're looking into getting into drawing or character design or anything like that, silhouette is so important. It's not just important because it makes it easy to see your character on a background. It's really important because strong silhouettes make for memorable characters. And, like, if I look at the 4th chorus is an incredibly memorable character. It's why I'm making a point to add it to this tapestry. And I would say that one of the reasons, character design-wise, that the 4th chorus is so memorable is because its silhouette is so strong. Like, you can kind of see in the reference, because the reference is very dark, just how recognizable it is. And, like, all the Hollow Knight characters have very strong, very recognizable silhouettes. If you look at Lace, if you look at Chakra, if you look at Hornet. But if you look at Chakra's master in this reference photo, so this is where you can go and find Chakra's master who has passed away of old age. Like, her silhouette's not that strong. And she's not a memorable character, but she's also not meant to be a memorable character. She's a character that you hear about, and then when you meet her, she's already dead. So you can kind of get the idea there of why that is. So, like, Hornet has a clear silhouette, Chakra has a very clear silhouette, her master does not. And she doesn't need one. But this also kind of comes back to a point that I've made a lot, and I will keep making until I'm dead, about intentionality. Like, you can really tell if an artwork had intention behind it versus if it was just kind of a random amalgamation of stuff. And it's one of, not my only, but it's one of my gripes with, like, the AI-generated artworks, where, like, the poses are kind of derivative or they're just all kind of from one perspective. If they aren't, then it starts getting weird because the AI struggles to, like, find, I mean, it can't find original concepts because it's AI, that's how it works. Like, it can't create something, it can only derive from other things, as are, like, arguably people. People are derivative in their creative outputs, but what I will say is that you can kind of tell, even the difference between, like, something that was generated by someone who had, like, a vague understanding of composition versus something that was generated by someone who is just like, oh, I just want something that looks cool. You can really tell versus, if you look at, like, what prompts they use and the end results, how there's very little intention behind ones that are generated by people who really have absolutely no concept of, like, why something looks cool. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, just make this a cool looking thing. And it's like, okay, but what does cool mean to you? Because cool in some regards means, like, oh, it has to incorporate a gun. That's what makes things cool, is if it incorporates a gun. You know, but then that's not necessarily gonna make something look cool automatically. So yeah, intention is very important when it comes to creating interesting, original pieces. And I'm making fan art, so my art is going to be derivative of the characters that I'm making, but I'm also trying to make the composition look cool and make sense in the context of the tapestry that I want it to be printed on. Like, I want this to really resonate in the format of a long piece. And I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to achieve that, because, you know, I have tried using the scale to communicate. Normally I'd use, like, the colors to communicate, like, who's the subject, but given that we have so many subjects here, that's not really going to work. So I need to make a decision at some point, like, am I going to need to tone down the fourth chorus because now other subjects aren't getting as much value or attention as, like, the other subjects, or am I going to instead increase it? Am I going to make it so that the stuff at the bottom is, like, super intense and saturated, and then the higher up the tapestry we go, the more sort of leveled out and chill and tranquil it is? Or am I just going to make it kind of accurate to game as, like, well, this was a fight that was super stressful and difficult and hardcore, whereas, like, the Cogwork Dancers fight was generally kind of chill, even if it was difficult at times. It was, like, chilled difficult, not, like, difficult. And those are decisions that I'll make at some point. I have not made them yet. Also, the legs are just going to become silhouettes at this point because I am running out of energy to continue drawing them. I just know that they are shiny, so they will remain looking kind of shiny. Something I do notice, which I think is just me not really looking at the reference properly, is if I look at the head, I can see that the head is lopsided. Yeah, so that's me not looking at the reference properly. So, like, this head is tilted, which means that this side is smaller than this side. That doesn't really make sense here. Like, this head here should not have that same amount of tiltedness. So this is where the liquify tools come in handy, because otherwise I would have to redraw this from scratch. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to fix the head by just pushing the mesh of my artwork out until it is more central. So the fourth chorus is kind of looking down to the center of the canvas rather than looking out to the side. Yeah, that's literally just a result of like me not looking at the reference as I was painting and making assumptions based on the line art that I'd drawn from a slightly different angle. This is also why it's important to make sure you're looking and like checking for little issues like that as you go, because if you'd missed that and like it had gone to print, then like the entire perspective might have been off. If you're doing something where the perspective matters more, like something that's like based on a realistic 3D pose, that's gonna really mess you up because you've been focusing so much on like this tiny little area and not like the full picture. Right. So that is where I'm going to end today for the fourth chorus. I might just make those hands like I think I'm going to cheat. I think I'm going to cheat. I'm going to do a cheat. I'm going to do a dirty cheat. So instead of painting out all of the detail on these hands like I had planned, I am instead going to select like this orange color and then go back to the image. And because I know already the silhouette's really strong, and I do already know that I want to kind of get sort of a flat shading ness on some of this, I am just going to fill it up with this solid color. So it's going to look like the hands are like lava hot. That's never something that I think happens. I can't really remember. I don't think the hands ever get lava hot in the game. They just smash into the stuff. But I'm going to make it look like that here, and that means that I don't have to paint in tiny details. So yes, dirty little cheat, which means that I have to do less work, but also means that I can now call this section of the tapestry finished. The fourth chorus is done. I'm definitely going to come back and do more work on it. Like, I do still want the little red things there, and that's going to complement this red over here in the corner. But in terms of what I set out to do for today, this is done. I have completed. I also need to paint the flea. I didn't paint the flea. In terms of what I said I was going to do, I've done the things, and it looks great, and I like how it looks, and I'm enjoying how it looks, and I look forward to finishing the rest of it, and I'm probably going to add like little details like that to other areas of the tapestry as well, to kind of just get the full expanse. Hell, I might even just take these individual areas of the tapestry out and like make separate, more detailed pieces with them because I want to. Alright, so for everyone that joined on Instagram or Twitch or the other thing, thank you so much. This was very fun, and yeah, I will hopefully be doing more on Saturday. Goodbye.